Hi, thanks for stopping by again. I've got a little story I want to share with you. Actually, it's a letter that was received by my fourth great grandfather. His name was Chester Southworth, and this letter was written to him. It's dated 17 December 1871, and it was written to my fourth great grandfather, Chester Southworth, by a cousin of his who was up doing research in Boston on the Southworth family line, Albert Southworth, who was a cousin to my fourth great grandfather. And I just wanted to read this letter to you because I find it quite interesting. Let me read this to you. So it's dated, as I said, 17 December 1871, to Mr. Chester Southworth Sr. Dear cousin. And what he's talking about here is some of the beginnings of the family back in England. Okay, he says, tradition from your Uncle Lemuel, from your father's Uncle Constant, and from my Uncle Seth A., tells us of our ancestors in England previous to the Reformation as a titled family and zealous Catholics. Of the Puritans, Richard is among the first of the Southworths. Sir Gilbert's wife Elizabeth was sale heir of the Nicholas days of Malmesbury in Lancaster, England. But of Edward we know was the secretary of the Plymouth Pilgrims remaining in England when the Mayflower sailed. I have already said enough for the present about the Southworths, and will only add that the name is never seen on criminal records of courts or in the newspapers reporting crimes. As far as I know, I have yet to learn of any prison convictions of our name. But what of all this? It only tells us the living of the virtues of our ancestors. There are good men among our name living, and a great many who have died, that were remarkable for their honesty and industry. I know of no paupers, and not a single drunkard. They believed in holy living as well as holy believing. They were humble followers of Jesus Christ as far as it was consistent to expect from poor human nature. They were democratic, both in civil and church government. Females among them were equal. Upon the church record stands the title of Good Mistress Alice and the godly old maid Mary Carpenter. Mary was Alice's sister, who died above the age of 90. Your grandfather Josiah's mother was the granddaughter of Reverend John Wilson, the first minister of Boston, a famous Puritan, and the granddaughter of Reverend Hooker in Hartford, Connecticut. We have in active life worthy representatives of the Southworth name. William, descendant of your Uncle Josiah, really descended from Edward of Bridgewater, Mass., and Edward Sr. and Edward Jr. of North Bridgewater. James of New York City descended from William of Little Compton. All are men of worth and influence. There are several others, ministers of the gospel, some lawyers, and a large number of farmers and artisans, all good members of society. In your letter to my brother in West Fairleigh, and in your letter to me, you allude to your connection with the Latter-day Saints. I know something of them from the newspaper, public documents, and from the Book of Mormon. I am not going into a letter controversy with you. You are, if I am correct, 78 years old. I began my letters to you to please you and my kindred there and here. I doubt not that you are a moral and virtuous man, and honest in your belief and doctrine. And there I leave the subject for the present. I want your history, your travels, your experiences, the incidents of your life, and that of your family from childhood. Any facts of your settlement in Vermont or New York, and the town of Canton. And, if it is agreeable, your experiences with the Mormons. remember me kindly to any one of our name. Hoping I may receive many letters from you, I subscribe myself most truly and respectfully yours, Albert Southworth. I would love to get my hands on more of that correspondence between my fourth great grandfather Chester and his cousin Albert. This is the only letter I've been able to find so far. If I do find any, I'll definitely let you know. I would love to hear what Chester wrote him as far as his involvement with the church, but that's pretty much all I had now. So I think we can take pride in the fact of having been descended from the Southworth line. They're all, I guess, family name is important. There are no drunkards and nobody was on the court record. So I guess that's a good thing. So thanks for stopping by. Hope you enjoyed that. We'll talk to you again real soon. Bye-bye.